There is a feeling rarely discussed at dinner tables or in workplace meetings, yet it quietly lives inside the hearts of millions of people around the world. It is a persistent whisper, a silent perception that something does not quite fit. You observe social interactions, consumption rituals, elevator conversations, and the career aspirations of your peers. And for a moment, everything feels like a choreographed performance, one where everyone else seems to know the script. Many people call this feeling inadequacy, social anxiety, or simply feeling like you don't belong. But Carl Gustav Jung, one of the founders of analytical psychology, saw this phenomenon through a completely different lens. For Jung, the feeling of being different was not a flaw of personality or a malfunction of the brain. It was something far more profound. It was the beginning of consciousness. If you often feel like an observer of your own life, if you question ideas that others accept without hesitation, you are not broken. You are simply beginning to see the mechanisms behind reality. Today, we will dive into Jung's psychology to understand why deeper and more intelligent minds often feel displaced in society, and why this very isolation may be the foundation of true human freedom.
To understand why some people feel different, we must first understand what makes most people appear the same. Carl Jung introduced the concept of the persona. The word comes from Latin and originally referred to the masks worn by actors in classical theater. In psychology, the persona represents the social mask we develop in order to function within society. It is the professional self, the polite self, the version of ourselves that follows rules and expectations. The persona is not inherently negative. In fact, it is necessary. It allows us to navigate social environments without constantly exposing our deepest vulnerabilities. The problem, Jung explained, begins when a person forgets that the mask is only a mask. Imagine wearing heavy armor every day in order to be accepted at a royal banquet. At first, you know it is only a costume, but after years of wearing it, the metal begins to fuse with your skin. You forget where the armor ends and where your real body begins. Most people live in this state. They adopt beliefs, desires, and fears that were never truly their own. They were simply installed by culture. When small talk feels exhausting or social rituals feel artificial, what you may actually be experiencing is your psyche struggling to breathe beneath a persona that has become too tight. Sensitive and intelligent minds often detect the cracks in the mask earlier than others. They notice the insecurity behind confidence, the emptiness behind status, the tension behind forced smiles. If you feel like a stranger in these environments, it may simply mean that your authentic self is refusing to live entirely behind a mask.
Jung's work went beyond individual psychology. He discovered something he called the collective unconscious. According to Jung, beneath our personal consciousness exists a shared psychological foundation common to all human beings. It contains instincts, symbols, and patterns that humanity has carried for thousands of years. We inherit these psychological structures without ever consciously learning them. This collective layer exerts an enormous gravitational pull on human behavior. It pushes societies toward conformity. Human beings evolved to fear isolation. For our ancestors, being rejected by the tribe often meant death. As a result, our brains are naturally wired to seek approval and belonging. But the progress of humanity has rarely come from the crowd.
It has come from individuals who dared to step outside of it. Jung believed that consciousness itself is an act of separation. To become conscious is like stepping into a boat and beginning to row against the current of the collective ocean. Most people float with the current without ever questioning it. But for some, the illusion breaks. You begin to notice patterns in human behavior. You start seeing repetition in social conflicts, trends, and emotional reactions. And once you notice these patterns, it becomes impossible to ignore them. You can no longer unsee the mechanisms behind collective behavior. Seeing these mechanisms may distance you from the crowd, but it also brings you closer to truth.
Once someone realizes they do not fully belong to the collective flow, they enter what Jung considered the most important psychological task of human life: individuation. Individuation is not rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It is not about being eccentric or seeking attention. It is the process of becoming a whole human being. It is the process of discovering who you truly are beneath social expectations. Individuation asks a difficult question: who am I when no one is watching? This process can be deeply uncomfortable. Jung believed individuation requires dismantling the identity we built simply to be accepted by others. It is a process of psychological unlearning. You begin to question everything. Is this fear truly mine, or was it inherited? Is this ambition truly mine, or was it shaped by social pressure? Is this identity authentic, or merely habitual? And along this journey, you inevitably encounter something Jung called the shadow. The shadow contains the parts of ourselves that we rejected in order to be accepted by others: our anger, our insecurity, our selfishness, but also our creativity, intensity, and hidden potential. Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious."
Greater awareness carries a cost: the loss of ignorance. When you begin to see psychological patterns clearly, everyday life can start to feel superficial. Conversations may feel repetitive. Social performances may feel obvious. The desire to impress others often fades. At first, this awareness can feel like loneliness. But Jung believed this stage is only temporary. The ultimate destination is not isolation, it is freedom. When you understand your own shadow and your own mask, you begin to see others with greater compassion. You realize many people are still acting unconsciously within collective patterns. Instead of judging them, you begin to understand them. And slowly, you become something rare in modern society: an authentic person. And authenticity has a strange power. In a world full of performance, what is real becomes magnetic.
If you have felt different for most of your life, if you have often felt like your mind notices things others seem to ignore, you may have spent years trying to fix yourself, trying to quiet your thoughts, trying to adapt to a world that never fully made sense to you. But Carl Jung offered a powerful perspective for people who feel this way. Stop trying to cure your consciousness. Your difference may actually be your compass. It is a sign that you have not been completely shaped by conformity. It is proof that something original still lives within you. The world is full of echoes, people repeating the same ideas, the same fears, the same identities. What the world desperately needs are individuals.
And Jung summarized this idea with a powerful sentence: "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Do not apologize for seeing what others ignore. Do not feel guilty for seeking depth in a shallow world. You are not alone in your difference. You belong to a quiet lineage of individuals who chose truth over comfort. Be yourself. The world will eventually adjust.